As she looked up, she happened to notice a coffin appearing on the conveyor belt. At first, she assumed it contained nothing more than a corpse, but when the coffin entered the X-ray scanner, the machine suddenly emitted a piercing alarm.
이번 벨트 뭐야? 관 외부에 금속 재질 장신 거예요. 통과시켜? 네.
She couldn't make out what was inside the coffin, because the X-rays couldn't penetrate it. She didn't report this anomaly. Instead, she quietly had the coffin transported to a remote location. When the lid was slowly opened, she saw that it was filled with gold bars weighing a full ton. The story actually began a day earlier. Hee-ju was just an ordinary security screener, living in a cramped rental apartment with her boyfriend, Lee. Logically speaking, even if their life wasn't wealthy, it shouldn't have been this tight. But in reality, they were 3 months behind on rent, and couldn't even afford a loaf of bread. She rushed to an ATM to check and discovered that her credit card had long since been frozen. Lee texted her to meet up that afternoon, but Hee-ju waited all afternoon without seeing her boyfriend. Instead, a man who had been asking around for her showed up. The moment she saw him, Hee-ju's expression changed. She hurried back to her workstation. Her supervisor told her a man had come looking for her, but Hee-ju claimed she didn't know him at all. Meanwhile, her boyfriend was being cornered by a gang. He owed a massive debt, but they weren't in a hurry to collect the money. Instead, they had set their sights on his position as a pilot, demanding he help transport a special cargo. To ensure his cooperation, the gang decided to take Hee-ju hostage. Lee hurriedly called Hee-ju, and anxiously told her to pack her bags and leave immediately. Although Hee-ju didn't know what was going on, she still packed her things as her boyfriend had instructed. However, just as she began packing, she heard the door open. Terrified, she immediately hid on the balcony. Then she jumped out the window and limped away. Just as the gang members rushed to the window, her figure was obscured by the flower beds. After escaping onto a bus, she immediately called him back, and demanded to know what was going on. Lee just kept insisting that nothing was wrong. But Hee-ju knew better. Her boyfriend had once worked at a casino, and it was highly likely he was already deep in debt to loan sharks. Lee told Hee-ju that he had a friend in Cambodia who was a gang leader. An employee at his friend's company had met with an accident, and the body was to be transported back to Korea the next day. But because the paperwork was complicated, he had contacted Lee. He asked Hee-ju to handle the security check for the coffin, and ensure it passed through smoothly. The next day, Hee-ju saw the coffin as expected, but as soon as the coffin entered the security scanner, the machine immediately emitted a piercing alarm. The coffin was loaded into a hearse, and transported by a man named Jack. However, just as the vehicle was about to pass a fork in the road, Lee suddenly pulled out a gun, and ordered Jack to turn right. After confirming it was safe, Lee kicked Jack out of the car. The owner of the gold bars was waiting for Lee at that moment. He had planned to kill Lee after receiving the gold bars, but suddenly received a call from Lee. He owed 200 million won in high-interest debt. The agreed-upon terms were to transport this coffin to settle the debt, but now he was demanding a last-minute price hike, asking the boss to pay an additional 1 billion won. Lee had always assumed the coffin contained drugs, but the reality was far more dangerous than he could have imagined. The boss was acting on behalf of the chairman above him. This was not a decision he could make on his own, but Lee had given him a final deadline. The transaction must be completed by midnight tonight. He immediately contacted Detective Kim, and applied pressure directly in the chairman's name, demanding that Lee's cell phone location be tracked immediately. As midnight approached, Hee-ju met Lee in a remote area. Lee handed her a brand new cell phone, and instructed her to use only this phone for future contact. He explained his plan to collect the money, and repeatedly emphasized, as soon as she received a call, to go to the designated location. If it's past midnight and he hasn't received a call, she should immediately drive away and discard the phone. Lee didn't mention a word about what was in the coffin. He simply said casually that once all this was over, they would leave the country to escape all their troubles and live a peaceful life. Although Hee-ju felt uneasy, she still agreed to his plan. However, just as Lee was heading to the exchange location, an unexpected incident suddenly occurred.